The meeting of the Marquette City Commission is called to order at 6 p.m. on Monday, July 8th, 2024. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk, may I have roll call?
Commissioner Larson?
Here.
Commissioner Mayer?
Here.
Commissioner Ottaway?
Here.
Commissioner Schlegel?
Here.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hanley?
Here.
And Mayor Davis.
Here. Commissioners, we have an agenda in front of us. I'm looking for a motion for approval. Commissioner Smith.
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Commissioner Schlegel.
I second the motion.
Any comments? Okay, all in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. I have one announcement, and that is that on July 4th, we opened up the 25-year time capsule for the city. It was a really nice event, and all of the items that were in the time capsule are currently on display at the History Center, and they will be on display until July 17th, 18th, one of those two. But go down to the History Center, take a look at it, and then they will all be cataloged, and we will work on our next time capsule. And with that, that's the end of my announcement, so we are ready for public comments. If you have comments, please step up to the podium. Comments may not exceed 3 minutes per person. Please state your name and physical address when making public comment. Anyone for public comment?
Hello, good evening. I have papers for everybody if
You
I
can pass them over to
take
the
one and
city clerk.
pass them around. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Good evening. My name is Chelsea Wilkinson. I'm the executive director at Room at the Inn. For privacy purposes, I hope it's okay that I don't give out my home address, but I'm representing 447 West Washington. I wanted to come speak with you all regarding the most recent Supreme Court ruling on criminalizing homelessness. For your reference, that decision is called Johnson versus Grants Pass. And Grants Pass is a community out in Oregon, and the ruling that the Supreme Court put forth was essentially to say that local municipalities now have the right to decide whether or not individuals who are sleeping outside or somewhere not meant for human habitation, they have the right to punish those individuals, whether it be with a fee or a fine, or to jail or arrest those individuals for simply existing outside because they have nowhere else to go. It's no secret that housing in our community continues to rise without any clear path forward about how we're building housing that is for these individuals. We know that mental institutions and sobriety and spaces for sobriety have continued to dwindle, and that causes real concern for agencies like mine. As of this morning, we have over 100 individuals between Alger and Marquette counties experiencing homelessness, and over 40 individuals with children, so families with children experiencing homelessness. And Room at the Inn is currently completely full. I've got a wait list of about 15 individuals. Jansen House is full. Harbor House is full. Many of you know that Superior Connections shelter was closed down about a month ago, making it a lot harder for us to house people safely that aren't outside. So it's a real concern for us as the number of individuals that have to sleep outside or in abandoned buildings continues to be on the rise. So the paper in front of you, we have some things for you all to take into consideration. One being considering a resolution from the local government to assure the public that we as a community will not criminalize folks experiencing homelessness. Establishing perhaps a free campsite somewhere. And the details of that, of course, we can comb out together. But there are some other some other suggestions on here, but we come to you today to see how we can work together on this. Thank you.
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Brooke Tharp. I live at 1402 Woodland Avenue. It's lovely to see all of your faces again. So I'm going to continue the conversation specifically about criminalizing homelessness. So our community has enacted and is enforcing laws that make living in public a crime. This wastes precious public funds and makes it harder for people to exit homelessness by saddling them with a criminal record. These policies that I'm going to share with you are intended to break this vicious cycle and shift law and policy away from the misuse of criminal justice system to address homelessness and towards true solutions to get the folks that we care about housed. So the purpose of stopping the criminalization of homelessness is to enact laws, policies, and practices that prohibit or limit the use, or criminalizing homelessness are laws, policies, and practices that prohibit or limit the use of public spaces by folks who are experiencing homelessness for life-sustaining activities. And our goal is to repeal or not enforce or fund those policies. So I'm going to give some examples of what policies that decriminalize homelessness are. Number one, no person shall be subject to or threatened with civil or criminal sanctions or harassment by law enforcement or other state actors and or private security personnel for moving, resting, sitting, lying down, sleeping, protecting oneself from the elements, or conducting other life-sustaining activities on public property, public parks, or an illegally parked car. Number two, the right to use and move freely in places of public accommodation without discrimination based on actual or perceived housing status shall not be abridged. Number three, no person shall be subject to civil or criminal sanctions for soliciting, sharing, accepting, or offering food, water, money, or other donations of public spaces. And number four, personal property, including campsites, of homeless persons shall not be subject to unreasonable search and seizure. So we with Room at the Inn and other community members are asking you to take these policies into consideration and work with the police departments throughout the area, whether that's state police, campus police, city police, to put into place protections to help those who are most vulnerable in our community. Our goal is to get these folks into some permanent housing and to kind of wrap our arms around them rather than jail them and put them in prison. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else for public comment?
Hello, my name is Ashlyn Warren. I live at 128 Rock Street in Marquette, Michigan, and I support the following policies that decriminalize homelessness. 1. No person shall be subject to or threatened with civil or criminal sanctions or harassment by law enforcement, other state actors, and or private security personnel for moving, resting, sitting, lying down, sleeping, protecting oneself from the elements, or conducting other life-sustaining activities on public property, public parks, or an illegally parked car. 2. The right to use and move freely in places of public accommodation without discrimination based on actual or perceived housing status shall not be abridged. 3. No person shall be subject to civil or criminal sanctions for soliciting, sharing, accepting, or offering food, water, money, or other donations in public places. Personal property, including campsites of homeless persons, shall not be subject to unreasonable search and seizure. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
How's it going? My name is Ian Watson. I live at 513 High Street, and I came to say that I support the following suggested policies that decriminalize homelessness. First, being no person shall be subject to or threatened with civil or criminal sanctions or harassment by law enforcement, other state actors, and or private security personnel for moving, resting, sitting, lying down, sleeping, protecting oneself from the elements, or conducting other life-sustaining activities on public property, in public parks, or in a legally parked car. 2. The right to use and move freely in places of public accommodation without discrimination based on actual or perceived housing status shall not be abridged. 3. No person shall be subject to civil or criminal sanctions for soliciting, sharing, accepting, or offering food, water, money, or other donations in public places. And 4. Personal property, including campsites of homeless persons, shall not be subject to unreasonable search and seizure. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Hi, my name is Cindy Hansen. I live at 1072 South Lake Street, Marquette, and I'm here to talk about parking on Lake Street. I don't think this issue is about who wants parking and who doesn't want parking. I think it's about safety. About 14 years ago, the residents on Lake Street received a letter from the city. It was right after the bike path was finished, and it was telling us that after much review that they had made a decision that parking was not safe anymore on Lake Street. At that time, it was a major adjustment for many of us on Lake Street with narrow driveways, short driveways, being able to have people park to come and visit us. But how can you argue safety? So about 6 years ago, parking has slowly come back. On June 18th, I was getting ready to leave to go to a 3 o'clock appointment, and there were about 50 cars on the lakeside and a few cars on the resident side. I was still able to get through. When I came back at 4 o'clock, I wasn't able to get through my street. It was totally bottlenecked. It had increased on both sides to the point where two cars could no longer get by. So safety is definitely an issue. Just to get down to our house was a major chore. And it made me stop to think, if something happened to anybody on our street, could emergency vehicles get to us? Or what about somebody on the beach? If something happened, there's no lifeguards. Would emergency vehicles be able to get to them? So I feel if we continue the norm of allowing people to park, I think something major might happen. As far as I can tell, since I received this letter, like I said, maybe 14 years ago, things haven't changed. The land between the bike path and the road are the same. The land between the size of the road has not changed, but the traffic has changed. We have more traffic on our street, different kinds of traffic with trucks pulling trailers and boats. We also have, the bike path has increased. And I know when I walk the bike path, if I have cars coming and going, I like to step off. Solutions, maybe a bigger parking lot. Maybe people who are parking on the road to undo their bikes could do it on the parking lot before Carp River. Maybe people who are leaving their dogs in to run on the beach could have them leashed. Maybe putting signs on our light poles, but they're coming down soon. But I noticed when I was taking my mother for a ride that the light poles on South Lake Shore Boulevard have light signs attached to them. Maybe our new light poles could have that done. I don't like to see signs put on the bike path side, but if it has to be, I guess it has to be.
Ms. Hanson, your time is up. I'm
Can
sorry.
I just say one more thing?
You could address it at the second public
I
comment
just
section.
want to thank the police department. Since June 18th, it has changed, and we don't have as many cars parked anymore.
you.
So I just want to make that things have changed.
Okay. You can continue your public comment on the second public comment section. Anyone else for public comment?
My name is Alex Skinden, and I live at 41 Elder Drive. I support the following policies that decriminalize homelessness. 1, no person shall be subject to or threatened with civil or criminal sanctions or harassment by law enforcement, other state actors, and/or private security personnel for moving, resting, sitting, lying down, sleeping, protecting oneself from the elements, or conducting other life-sustaining activities on public property, public parks, or in a legally parked car. 2, the right to use and move freely in places of public accommodation without discrimination based on actual or perceived housing status shall not be abridged. 3, no person shall be subject to civil or criminal sanctions for soliciting, sharing, accepting, or offering food, water, money, or other donations in public spaces. And 4, personal property, including campsites of homeless persons, shall not be subject to unreasonable search and seizure. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Margaret Brum, 404 East Magnetic Street. Saturday, I was downtown walking around Matson Park. There was something called, I think it's the City Fest. It's an organization that's been here for 5 years that puts on a day of activities with I would say, a non-denominational religious theme, in that they're family-oriented, there's music, there's games, there was a petting zoo. There was all sorts of things that would attract families. And as I walked around the park, it was basically paradise. I mean, it was a sunny, beautiful day. And aside from me, everybody else seemed to have an ice cream cone. I'm not complaining, but I mean, it was that sort of a day. What ruined it for me was that there were 2 people walking around the park dressed in what appeared to be biblical costume, holding signs threatening people with eternal damnation for being at this festivities. And the first time I saw them, I thought they might be religious. Then I decided they probably could be mentally ill based on how they were screaming. But I later on changed my mind because I saw them try to provoke an altercation with a young band that was leaving. And by try to provoke, the gentleman had his sign over his shoulder, so he had it sticking in their faces, and then with the other hand, he was holding a camera. And on the sign, he had his website, and if you go there, there's video after video of him provoking this. And when I say he was saying vile things, I am not a prude, and I have a very colorful vocabulary, but I would not repeat one word that man said in public. It was that vile. But for the restraint of the young man, there could easily have been an altercation. Now, I'm trying to get a video of this because I told my students, when people think they're on video, they'll stop misbehaving. And I realized the gentleman was poking his stick at these young men and videoing at the same time. He was trying to provoke violence. I found later on state police there and told them what happened, and they took the license plate that I had taken a picture of and said that they had warned these people 4 times to stay away from the event. And I'm bringing this to your attention because there's all sorts of rules about not having businesses and private events. And on his sign, it wasn't just religion, it was his website. And if you go to his website, he has monetized these provocation videos. And so I believe that there should have been further action taken against him, especially since I don't have children of my own, but there's no way in heck I would let any child anywhere near where these people were shouting. And they were shouting at the top of their lungs. And I resent them ruining an afternoon like this, which should have been joyful for a lot of people, but I bring it to your attention because they were at the food fest too, and it looks like they're going to come back. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Anyone else? Okay, public comment is now closed. And we have a presentation tonight on the Police Fire Pension Board by the chair, Mike Archikowski. So Mike, would you come up to the podium?
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Mike Archikowski. I'm a detective sergeant with the Marquette City Police Department. My duty as chairman of the Police Fire Pension Board is to come up here and explain some of what we as a board are doing for the police officers, the firefighters, and the citizens of Marquette. So I'll take that opportunity now. I'm the chairperson of the board currently. Up for re-election coming here in 2026. I'm joined on the board by 2 others, Ken Lamar from the fire department, and by Tara Barman. By virtue of her office, she is a city liaison for our board. Ken and I are both elected by our respective co-workers to be on the board. So when we have meetings, we've been having a 8:30 a.m. meeting on about the 4th Tuesday of every month. In the past year, we had 11 meetings. The last one we couldn't have just because there was a lack of quorum. We had no excused absences. And from time to time, we get a lack of quorum because we're only 3 people on a board, which should have 5. We've been running short of trustees now for the past couple of years. And we're looking for people to join the board and fill that void. Just a little bit of history about the pension board. It was passed by the city of Marquette, the voters in the city of Marquette back in 1965, where they wanted to give the police and the firefighters a special pension, which is delineated by the Michigan legislature back in 1937. So the citizens voted that we could have a pension fund, and the city's been grateful ever since to provide the police and the firefighters here in Market City with that pension, which we're very grateful for. The Act 345 establishes that we can have this fund, maintain it, and administer it, and it's in the interest of the pension board to continue to make sure that money's coming in for the pensioners. We do that through contributions from our members, both from firefighters and police, and from the city of Marquette. Currently, we have 60 members who are working in those 2 departments and are paying into the system. 60 members. Currently, we have 78 who are drawing on the pension system and 2 who are deferred. So we're a little bit lopsided. That being said, though, our fund is about going on 44 million. We're doing well in that regard. When weighed against our liabilities, we end up being about 79% funded. 79% funded is nice. We'd like to be at 80, but in the realm of Act 345 pension boards in the state of Michigan, it appears that we're doing pretty well. 79% funded is, I've never seen it that high before. We've always dwindled around 72% to 76%. So the 2022 numbers, end of 2022 numbers that show 79% is doing pretty good. Since we changed investment managers and went to Wells Fargo back in 2013, our funds have experienced a 7% growth, which is decent over the life of our relationship with Wells Fargo advisors who have recently become principal advisors. We, as a board, did a request for proposals back in 2018 to see if we needed to go someplace different, but Wells Fargo hung in there, gave us the best numbers, and we stuck with that. Another accomplishment is that this year, again, we were able to issue a 13th check. The 13th check, which we give out to our pensioners who are eligible, is to make up what we don't have, which is a cost of living adjustment in our fund. If a person retired back in the 90s and they're making $16,000, they're still making that amount today. There's no COLA. So having that 13th check is just a benefit. It's an additional paycheck for our pensioners to try and live their lives in this economy. And we get that 13th check from taking our earnings from investments over the past year, dividing it by 2. We send half of that to the pensioners and we reinvest the other half. Typically is how we do that. We average about $835 per recipient for that 13th check. Additionally, we as a board sent out the summary annual report, and we just list out to our pensioners. We send them a mailing telling them the things that you see on the screen here, things that they might want to know, like how well we're funded, how many people are putting in, how many people are drawing from it, and some of the actuarial assumptions that we use to get to the figures to determine our funding level. And we worked with principal advisors to set up an online portal for our pensioners. So now they can take the initiative to go online if they so choose, and they can alter and change some of their information instead of having to come to the city hall, sit with human resources to change an address or marital status or things like that. So having the online portal opens up opportunities for pensioners to see some of the things that I'm showing you today. Of course, the goal of the board is to keep doing the fiduciary due diligence to keep the pension running smooth and to make sure that it's viable for all the other police and firemen that'll be retiring in generations to come. I recognize that we have some issues as a board. We've always been, at least for the past couple of years, trying to fight this battle of how can we get more people to join the board. We're looking for 2 trustees who will sit on the board with us, have meetings with us, vote with us. I recognize that we are still below 80%. 80% is a realistic goal set where we'd like to be. 79% is doing really well. So it's a issue still, but not a problem, if I can say that. And like I said before, we have 78 drawing on the fund, 60 putting into it, so we're a little bit lopsided. It worries me, but what's the only solution rather than to fill our openings in the fire and police departments to get more people paying into the system? We're working on that to get applicants on board. We have some openings. And with that, I can field any questions the board might have for me.
Okay, look at this, there's some interest here. Commissioner Ottaway.
Mike, thank you for that presentation. It kind of sheds light on where you guys are, and just seeing you guys being so close to that 80% is refreshing. It's nice to see. The one question I have is with the lopsidedness. Do we feel like that's starting to level off at this point as far as the amount of people going out of the plan versus the amount of people coming in, or do we think it's going to get more lopsided as time goes on?
I don't know how to answer that. Healthcare has gotten really well since this plan was enacted back in the 60s. So people are living longer. I'm not going to go there, but you.
How about just to answer me this? the general age of our police and fire that we have right now, does it seem like we're going to have a lot more people retire in the coming years? Do we think we've gotten past that area where a lot have retired?
Yeah, police,
mostly young people.
Police just hit a hurdle this past couple of years where we had a lot of people retire. We should be good to go for a while here where we won't have a mass exodus. People were, hirings were more spaced apart across years instead of over a few months. We're good on that front. I don't know how the fire department's doing, but certainly I expect that lopsidedness to kind of always be there. I wish we could make it even at least, but as long as we have people living longer and we're not increasing more firefighter positions or more police positions, we're going to have that lopsidedness.
Thanks.
Thank you. Pro Tem Hanley.
My question is to do with the numbers. I know that you were showing us 2022 having us close to 80%. Do we actually think that with the 2023 numbers we're going to be close to that, or do you think it's going to drop significantly?
I would be guessing if I said that it's been a good year, but from what I've heard from our last quarterly report is 2023 wasn't a bad year. We should have those numbers coming out pretty soon, and hopefully we don't go down. Okay. That's the best I can speak to that question.
Okay.
Commissioner Smith.
I just wanted to say thank you, Mike. I know it maybe isn't the most exciting topic, but it's really important that we honor the commitments we've made to our former firefighters and police officers. And I also see it as a valuable retention and recruitment tool that continues to attract folks into those positions. So thank you for doing the nitty-gritty work and rounding up people and making decisions when maybe it's not the most exciting meeting to go to, but we appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Mike, thank you very much. I have a question, and maybe this is an unfair question, but I'm curious to the number of openings that we have in the fire department and the police department at present.
The police, we are hovering around 3.
You're
Fire,
short 3 people.
I can't speak to fire.
Okay.
We're around 3.
All right, good. I'm so glad that we are able to offer a pension, and the 79% feels really like a good number. And let's hope for the 80% in the future. Thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it, and the city's contributions. Thank you.
We now have a public hearing for the Land Development Code amendments. City Clerk, may I have some background?
Thank you, Mayor. On May 21st, 2024, the Planning Commission conducted a public hearing for the consideration of a comprehensive set of amendments to the Land Development Code It had been the subject of several months of work and refinement prior to that meeting. After considering the proposed amendments and conducting a public hearing, the Planning Commission approved the following motion. It was moved by Kay Clegg, seconded by M. Rayner, and carried 9-0 that after review of the Land Development Code amendments presented as case 01-ZOA-05-2024, and after conducting a public hearing and careful consideration of the contents of the draft LDC amendments, the Planning Commission finds that the draft LDC amendments are consistent with the recommendations, goals, and policy objectives of the Community Master Plan, comply with Section 54.1405 of the Land Development Code, and therefore are justified and appropriate, and therefore should be approved by the City Commission with the following amendment, that the last sentence of item 54.1003F2 be amended to state that wood other than cedar must be treated. In the attached ordinance text, strike-throughs indicate repealed Land Development Code content, while yellow highlights indicate newly added material. The text amendment mentioned in the Planning Commission motion has been made to the attached ordinance number 731. Fiscal effect, none. Recommendation, adopt ordinance number 731 in accordance with the recommendation from the Planning Commission. Alternatives as determined by the Commission.
And with that, I will open the public hearing for the Land Development Code. Anyone wishing to speak on this particular item, please step up to the podium. Anyone for the public hearing? Okay, the public hearing is now closed. Commissioners, I would entertain a motion. Pro Tem Hanley.
I move that we adopt ordinance number 731 in accordance with the recommendation from the Planning Commission.
And Commissioner Schlegel? I thought I saw your hand up. No? Okay. Oh, Commissioner Mayor.
I'll second the motion, Your Honor.
Thank you. Comments?
And from me right now.
Okay. Comment?
I'm surprised. The only thing I was going to say is I think the Planning Commission did a really great job on this. It's a really big overhaul of several areas that needed to be overhauled, and the expanded capabilities for both housing, solar energy, and childcare services, I think, are all great wins for the city.
Thank you. Commissioner Larson, did you have?
I was just going to say that the Land Development Code is a living document, and planner, the city staff, and the Planning Commission have really put a lot of effort and thought into this. Especially Dave and Andrea. It's no small task to help move these things forward. So, big thanks to city staff and the Planning Commission for putting a lot of time into this, but moving forward as a living document, I think this is important to see some changes in the community.
Okay. Other commissioners? Commissioner Smith.
I am really excited and proud of this document. I know we've done a lot of work on housing, parking, childcare. I know it's a little tedious to go through, but I would encourage the public to open up the packet and look through all the yellow highlights, but you can see all the work. This is how change actually happens in our zoning. So like 95%, I'm there. I'm a little concerned still about the potential for up to a 10-foot wind turbine in people's backyards. I'm going to say it out loud. I will vote yes, but I think that's something we need to note.
Any further comments from the commission? Commissioner Ottaway.
Yeah, I just want a huge shout out and thank you to city staff on this. One of the things that the public really doesn't see unless you're really following is the amount that goes into this in a work session, where basically city staff briefs us on all of the things that are going on with this, and we do a joint meeting with the Planning Commission to really have a full understanding of it. It's great that we have the experts really tell us what's going on here, and kind of like Commissioner Larson said, this is a living, breathing document that is always changing, and we're always looking to make better. So huge shout out to city staff for making it easy on us.
Any further comments? Commissioners, thank you much for your comments. This truly indeed is an important document that is working to better accommodate the needs of our community. And with that, we have a roll call vote this evening. So City Clerk, would you conduct the roll call vote?
Commissioner Larson.
Yes.
Commissioner Mayer.
Yes.
Commissioner Ottaway.
Yes.
Commissioner Schlegel.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hanley.
Yes.
And Mayor Davis.
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. Moving along, we have the consent agenda. Commissioners, I'm looking for a motion. Commissioner Larson?
I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
And a second? Commissioner Schlegel?
I'd second the motion.
Any comments? Anyone down here? Okay. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Moving on, we are going on to the new business, and at ITRON, is that ITRON? Is that how we pronounce that? Managed Services. City Clerk may have the background, please.
That's how I'm going to pronounce it. Thank you, Mayor. At the July 31st, 2017 meeting, the City Commission entered into a performance contract agreement with Johnson Controls, Inc. to provide a citywide energy-based performance contract solution. Part of the project scope included full implementation of a water advanced metering infrastructure system. The software required to operate the AMI system is sold by Itron, Inc. and requires a separate software agreement outside of the Johnson Controls performance contract. The annual cost of the software agreement is already included in the Johnson Controls performance contract cash flow. The purpose of this amendment to the Itron agreement is to add managed services to the software as a service and reduce the annual contract escalation rate of the agreement from 5% to 3%, which is more in line with typical service contracts. Under the current software as a service agreement, Itron is responsible for the maintenance, availability, and performance of the hosted back office. Itron is responsible for the back office availability and file delivery, but not the read rate on the field equipment. The city is responsible for the daily operations encompassing the field area network, as well as endpoint data collection and integrity. The managed services package includes read rate, service level agreement, and 24/7, 365 support. Itron Inc. is responsible for the field area network, as well as endpoint data collection and data integrity. The CGRs are now obsolete and in need of replacement this fiscal year. City staff considered the cost of adding managed services to the Itron agreement versus the cost of replacing the CGRs and adding a network engineer / application engineer / systems administrator to the IT staff, and determined it was more cost effective to add managed services to the agreement. Fiscal effect: the annual cost of the software as a service agreement is included in the Johnson Controls project budget for fiscal year 23-24. The cost of adding managed services to the current fiscal year is $58,451. There is a maintenance credit from Itron in the amount of $21,736.64. A budget adjustment will be required in the amount of $36,714.36, which is split equally between the water fund and the sewer fund. Both have adequate funding available. Recommendation: approve the amendment to the original software agreement with Itron Inc. for the water AMI software to now include managed services, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the amendment to the agreement. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Commissioners, I will entertain a motion. Pro Tem Hanley.
I move that we approve the amendment to the original software agreement with Itron Inc. for the water AMI software to now include managed services, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the amendment to the agreement.
And may I have a second? Commissioner Smith.
Second.
Any discussion? Commissioner Smith?
I think this is a good move to make monitoring more efficient for both our residents and our staff.
Anyone else? Any further comment? Okay, all in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Our second item of new business is the naming of the Nina Weiner Ittner Skate Park. And I would like the background, City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Per City Commission Policy 2005-01, naming parks and recreation facilities, a request was forwarded to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. At their June 2024 meeting, the board reviewed the request with supporting documentation. After discussion, the board voted unanimously to support the request to rename the facility. Nina Weiner Ittner was instrumental in both proposing the idea of a permanent built skate park and in the fundraising to make the facility a reality. Her commitment to serving the youth of this community and unique skill at raising funds, combined with her visionary leadership, resulted in a place for the youth of the area to congregate, challenge themselves, socialize, and grow. Several letters of support from community members are attached. Community Services staff fully support this proposal. Fiscal effect: none with this action. Recommendation: approve the request to name the skate park the Nina Weiner Ittner Skate Park. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Commissioners, may I have a motion? And Pro Tem Hanley.
Hi. I move, well, I already scrolled myself down too far, of course. I move that we approve the request to name the skate park the Nina Wire Ittner Skate Park.
And a second, Commissioner Ottaway?
Second.
And I bet you have something to say about
I do
this.
have something to say about this. No, I think that this is a wonderful way to honor a person who has done a ton for our community. I'm pretty sure all of the commissioners read the letters that were attached to this nomination sheet, and the words of kindness that were said about her were amazing throughout it. I do want to take a second to read one of the paragraphs that I really liked, which was, more than just a visionary leader, Nina embodies the spirit of compassion and generosity that defines our city. Her unwavering commitment to the well-being of our youth has laid the foundation for a brighter future, one where every child is empowered to reach their full potential. As a symbol of our gratitude and admiration, I believe we should honor Nina's legacy by naming our city skate park in her honor. And they're completely correct. The work she did to make that skate park happen and what she's doing with our park down by the waterfront, there's no one else that could do it the way she does it. So I think that this is a great honor for her and something that is very, very well deserved.
Okay. Commissioner Ottaway, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I'll just add to that. To me, this is a slam dunk home run. It's one of the things that, as commissioners, we love. I love seeing the correspondence attached to this that was all very uplifting and made you feel good inside, as opposed to yelling at us for doing something or otherwise. But I think it's great anytime we can give back to a community member who's done so much for the community. This is a great way to do it, and it makes all the sense in the world. So.
Okay, other comments from commissioners? Commissioner Schlegel.
Thank you. I was at the presentation a couple Fridays back, and to see Nina sit there and be so humble as far as, the work that she put into it was just something that embodies who she is. Really impressed. Over the years, when I first started to get involved with things in Marquette in my early 20s, Nina was part of the Children's Museum, and I started to watch certain people in the community that would eventually inspire me to take different steps to get involved and be a part of the community in different ways. And she was certainly one of those people that made an impression on me and said that, hopefully someday when people look back at what I was a part of throughout my time in the city here, that I made an impact that was remotely close to what she's done and what she's doing with this community. So this is just it's such a compliment. It's a great way to give her a little bit more legacy, but she is truly one of Marquette's gems, and we should celebrate this in the way that, like we are. So thank you.
Any further comments from the commission? Okay. I remember before we had a skate park, and the skateboarders were considered a nuisance. They were skating all over in places like the parking ramps and the streets, and they were not well liked. And Nina was that person who said, but wait a second, let's do something for them. And then there were the people that really didn't care, but Nina pulls those kinds of things off really well. And one of the letters said that this is a surprise that she doesn't know, so I'm just curious if she knows yet. She does know, okay. I wish she was here so we could honor her, but I'm very happy to have this in front of us. So I think with that, commissioners, I will take a vote. All those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And that brings us to our second public comment section. So anyone who would like to speak for public comment, please step up to the podium. We need your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
I think I finished, but I'm going to make sure I finished. I'm Cindy Hansen. I live at 1072 South Lake Street, Marquette. And at the end of my little talk, I wanted to say that parking has improved since June 18th, when we had this mass of 50 cars plus on both sides of our road. And I just wanted to compliment the police department and their work. I'm sure it hasn't been a positive thing to deal with people wanting to go to the beach and not being able to park, and doing households where some of us want the parking and some of us don't want the parking. So I'm sure it hasn't been a positive adventure for them, but I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Margaret Brum, 404 East Magnetic. I want to apologize to all the speakers who might have thought I was playing on my phone. I was listening to everything you said, but I wanted to find this video here which shows, and I'm just going to hold this up. These were the solar-powered underwater lights I purchased in order to be placed underneath the window of the ramp downtown in the new pier. And I did that after the ramp was installed, much to my delight, and then anyone who walked out on it realized you really couldn't see underneath it. And in fact, I had filled up my car with cleaning supplies and things and had a plan to come down every week and push the snow off and Windex it. Sorry, that's a trademark. Use a cleaning product on the window to save the city some money, and so you wouldn't have to have dedicated people. So I purchased from Amazon, commercially available solar-powered underwater lights. They're designed for people with ponds. And then, being a kind of a scientist, I put them in a bucket in my backyard and I tested them over 3 or 4 weeks, different weather, different circumstances. And believe it or not, they're not expensive, but they work throughout all of it. And there was no hazard in the sense of it was safe for me to handle, and I'm not trained. And then I made a donation to Don Fossbender's organization, the dive organization that this city trusts to dig up terrible amounts of trash and trust him with big equipment. And he was all set to go down there and hook up the solar-powered lights, which would have no electricity involved. And then the city staff decided that rather than those lights, they wanted to get electric-powered lights for a lot of reasons, and I'm not disputing that at all. That's been on hold, though, pending things I don't understand. And over the weekend, there was a nasty gram on Facebook from a lady who was disappointed that we'd bothered to put the window in the first place, followed by a whole bunch of nasty people saying nasty things about, I knew it would never work in the first place, and you have to have this shield, and you have to have that shield. And my attitude is this. I am sorry that I can't fix the world, but those lights exist. They've been paid for. Diver Don is ready to go underwater and put them there. I'm not suggesting that you do this in lieu of your plan by your staff. I'm suggesting until that plan is ready, until you get your electricians squared away, why don't we give this a try? There's no cost to the city that I'm aware of. You trust Diver Don, and the lights are ready to go in. And whatever we learn from putting them in, I know there's a big concern about winter and ice. Like I said, why don't we try them out this summer and get some data and get some feedback from people? Because it breaks my heart that people go out there and don't see what I always envisioned they would see as the underwater. And yes, I'm taking ownership of this. I was the one who sat in the work studies and begged you to do this, but it's no cost to the city. And I know you have a good plan for the future. Could we try this now and see how it works? Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Anyone else? Okay, public comment is now closed, and we will move on to comments from the commissioners. And I'm going to begin with you, Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. For those in the audience who may not have been at a city commission meeting in the past, which maybe is only 1 or 2, our chance to respond is not until now. So it's not that we were avoiding your comments earlier. We can only address items that are on the agenda until this point. So thank you for being patient, and please pass along to those that you may know that we did hear you, and now is our turn. Thank you for providing a summarized document of items for us to consider. I would hope that our city manager and city staff would be willing to take a look at this and see what we can do. And I would certainly support some kind of effort to do what we can when it comes to homelessness and the unhoused. And I appreciate all that you all do to help those vulnerable individuals. As for our agenda, I feel like tonight was a really good example of all of the different kinds of things that we touch here in city government: police, fire, land development code, rezoning, managed services for water and sewer, and then the naming of a skate park, which is Parks and Rec. We have a nice variety pack here, and all that to say, the biggest decisions, the decisions that have the biggest impact on our local lives are at the local level. So I know the ballots are out for absentee voting, and also the polls will be open in August for the primary election for our local city commission seats and other local elections. And I just hope that folks are inspired and motivated maybe by some other things that are happening to focus on the local and make sure that what we have here in Marquette is good for the long haul. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Larson.
Commissioner Smith has really summed up it very, very well. The only thing I would add is, thank you to city and staff, for a great 4th of July week and keeping everybody safe out there. So yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Commissioner Mayer.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a comment. I do want to acknowledge and thank city staff and our committees that spend a lot of time making these agenda items possible. And, it's great that we get to say some words and get them over the finish line a lot of the times, but the amount of work that goes into it, it really is appreciated. Also, shout out to our police department and our fire department for a great 4th of July celebration and for what seemed like not chaos everywhere, so that's appreciated. Did want to mention as well, partially because of our land development code that we just updated today, the governor also signed today a bill that makes it so HSAs can no longer prevent homeowners from having solar panel or energy saving systems input into their home. HOA, thank you. And the timing of that, I just thought was worth mentioning because we can now we can do that a lot easier now. Last two things I want to say is, as far as a lot of public comments for decriminalizing homelessness, I'm happy that you guys all came out and you're speaking. I think it was 1 or 2 years ago, we essentially legalized panhandling as a step, I think, better in the direction you're thinking. I don't think anyone on this commission is wanting to go around and arrest people for not being able to find shelter, but that's just my thoughts. The last thing I just wanted to mention is kind of a forward-looking thought process here is, parking on Lakeshore. I'm blessed enough to live just a couple blocks from it. I have noticed it is increasingly, over the last few years, becoming more and more of a thing. And I have a feeling it's going to continue to get worse within the next few years here with some development projects going on. So maybe additional parking is something we should be looking at, but thank you.
Commissioner Ottaway.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. I will touch with the document you guys gave us. This is an awesome starting point. Just echoing what everyone else said, I think it's great to bring it to our attention. I think it's even better that you got it city staff. They're the ones that really get it going in the right direction, and I think that everyone that is sitting on this commission 100% supports not locking people up for being homeless. So anything we can do to be proactive on that line, we want to do for sure. Cindy, I think you brought up a great point with the parking issues over on Lake Street, and Commissioner Mayer just echoed that, along the lake in general. I would love to hear if our police chief, who's so nicely sitting here with us right now, could speak to what he's been seeing out in the line every day and maybe what the police department is doing to try to combat that and planning for that.
I think we can let you do that right now instead of waiting.
Okay. Yeah, we've had a lot of complaints within the last couple of years, and it is get a little more busy down on South Lake for sure. Lakeshore has always been a problem. But South Lake, it's one of those things where it's not signed very well. There's a sign entering from both directions. So that's a complaint you have. But then when you put up too many signs, there's complaints there too. So it has increased this year. We have not written any tickets. People think we are, but we're writing warning tickets at this point. If it gets any worse, we're going to have to probably ramp up some tickets in that regard.
Okay, thank you. Are you finished?
One more thing I will say. Everyone said thank you to the police department, fire department for the 4th of July. I will echo that as well. It was awesome to see. I thought all of our festivities were amazing. I also want to say a big thank you to the people that fundraise and put on the parade and the fireworks. It was pretty spectacular this year to see what was actually accomplished. Our parade is just getting so huge. I mean, it's long, and I have people from out of town occasionally come in and see fireworks in the parade, and they're always just impressed with what Marquette's able to put on, and that's really just done by volunteers and people donating to it. So keep doing that, keep making us look like the shining stars that we are, I guess, and thank you to everyone involved.
Thank you. Pro Tem Hanley.
Thank you. First of all, I got a ticket there in college once.
Different chief.
Never did that again. Yeah. Getting soft. No. But no, I really do understand that that is a problem on that road, and so I really appreciate you bringing it forward to us. I want to thank you all for coming and talking about it. The biggest issue is that people aren't choosing to be out unhoused. This is something that is happening to them, and we need to be working together towards solutions to find ways forward rather than criminalizing poverty. So it is good for you to put it in front of us over and over again. And I know that, at least speaking for myself, we all want to find ways to work forward. Other than that, I think I'm good. Thanks for everyone for a good fourth. I'm sure it was beautiful here.
You should have been here. Commissioner Schlegel.
Thank you. Just prior to COVID really kicking in, we had a homeless task force assembled here in town, and I sat on that with then Commissioner Bonzel, amongst probably another 20 other people in the community in various roles. And things started to really get some traction there as far as kind of, which direction, how to drive this topic. And all of a sudden COVID came and everything went, south as far as that goes. The task force was never to meet again, at least that I'm aware of. But I don't know if that's something that maybe you guys might want to kind of try and revisit. But I'll tell you from my perspective, and educating myself and what's going on with the homeless issue in town, some people do choose to be homeless. And I'm okay with that. That's their decision. But the majority of them are hardworking, trying to get themselves into housing situations, trying to better their lives, and really, take control of their lives again. And that was something that was really difficult for me to kind of wrap my head around, because I'm not going to candy coat it. I had a stereotype, and that was it. And I got to meet a lot of really nice people that are busting their butts to get into better positions in their lives. So maybe that's an area that we want to kind of go back and revisit as far as the homeless task force goes. Thank you guys for coming in and speak tonight. The land development code, I could have talked a lot about that tonight, but I kind of bit my tongue on it because you guys kind of wrapped it up for me by saying it's living and breathing. There's a couple things that are in there that I'm not going to say I'm 1,000% for, but I understand that it can be revisited, and I know that our staff is going to do a good job of talking about whether it's wind turbines, whether it's the idea of going from 4 to 5 people in the primary residence. Those types of topics they're change, and it's not just change for the sake of change. It's change because other communities have put them in place, and when they're seeing success for it, and it does fill a gap there that would allow us to have some higher density. But I do have my reservations, and I'll be going back and looking at those topics as the years go on. So I look forward to working with staff on that. I would imagine that the city manager's been chomping at the bit to talk about parking down on Lake Street, because I'm sure that she's had a conversation with the Board of Light and Power, and I know that the Board of Light and Power is going to eventually open up some space down there for overflow parking. I've had a conversation with Tom over at the Board of Light and Power, and he, even when I was on the Board of Light and Power a year and a half ago, that was something that, how do we reuse some of that space down there? It does make sense to open up that parking, some of the old parking area that was in front of the old building. I don't know if you guys have really had a chance to hash it out, but if you have any other further information, I would appreciate it. But it is on the radar, and it is obviously on everybody's radar up here as far as that space being an issue. But it is, the Board of Light and Power is hopefully going to get to that this season. I don't know for sure, but we'll find out. Other than that, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, parking on Lake Street, we are very blessed to have South Beach and to have it open. All of the beach that we have here in Marquette. And I recognize that Lake Street parking is an issue, and I too would encourage the Board of Light and Power to open up some of that space for additional parking. For those of you who talked about the unhoused people in our community, thank you so much for your interest. Thank you for your compassion. And I really do, like others, appreciate the specific suggestions you have given to us to consider. One of the first things that was mentioned was a resolution, and oftentimes people ask me about resolutions. They don't know how they come to become. But if you could draft a resolution and present it to the city staff, that is how we began. We then take that into consideration and kind of work with you to perfect the language, and then it becomes before the commission. So that would be my suggestion. Huge thanks to what happened over the 4th of July holidays. I was privileged enough to attend the American Legion ceremony, where they celebrate the independence of our country and support of the veterans. Then the Exchange Club puts on a wonderful event. I couldn't believe how crowded it was on the 3rd, just before the fireworks. The parade went wonderful, and thank you so much to the city staff for keeping that parade very safe. Not too many people get to actually experience going down the Washington Street and seeing, and I've done this. I've walked the street, I've walked that parade a lot of times selling 50/50 tickets. I've been on different floats. I could tell you that there was more people this year than ever, and it stayed a very safe event. So, that's huge. And then, of course, the committee for the fireworks, and I know that they sometimes struggle with the funding, but they carried it off this year, and it was really wonderful at them. Hopefully I didn't. So anyway, thank you to the Kiwanis for the parade. Thank you to the Exchange Club for the festivities, to the Fireworks Committee for being able to provide that kind of an experience, and to the American Legion for their ceremony at Harlow Park. The other thing I wanted to say is something. Speaking of Nina and her contributions to the community, and everyone knows that she's very, very involved in the Playgrounds for All, or what sometimes we call as a Kid Cove too. But the other thing that happened in the last couple of days is a lot of volunteers went down to that area and planted plants and put up mulch, and so the area is looking better. We don't have our playground equipment yet, but the area is looking really nice, and thank you to that group. That's particularly Barb Coleman, who headed that effort. And I'm assuming, City Manager, that you might want to speak a little bit about the city's efforts to work with the county people with the homelessness and maybe Lake Street. And I will turn it over to you.
Certainly. Perhaps before we get into those items, I do want to just announce that the Parks and Rec Master Plan, which is currently underway for a revision or update, there is going to be an open house event, drop-in style, that will occur on July 17th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Citizens Forum. And there will also be another event the following day that will have more of a presentation format for the Parks and Rec Master Plan, and that will be held on July 18th, 5 to 7, again, in the Citizens Forum. So please stop by, look on, probably have something on the website sometime soon, sharing some of those documents and gathering some thoughts, but share your feedback and get involved. This is also a very critical document when we talk about the future of our Parks and Rec programs and departments and uses and all the things that make this a fun place, but also make it very important for us to enjoy. So to address a couple of the items that were mentioned tonight, speaking first about the homelessness issues or changes, we have been working really closely with the neighboring municipalities to work together and find some short-term and plan for some long-term, perhaps brainstorming or solutions. Obviously, this is beyond just a city problem. This is really a county, I don't say problem, but something that needs to be addressed. And we certainly want to work together because I think we are better working together. When we talk about the task force, that wasn't necessarily a city function or city organized group, However, I know that there were participation from city staff there, but we have kind of supplemented that right now by building our relationships up with these organizations. We have a very close relationship with Room at the Inn. I think that we have an open line of communication. We really try to troubleshoot, and I say we, but a lot of times it's either our police department or our fire department and another staff working with Room at the Inn staff and trying to perhaps, bridge some of these gaps and shed some light on maybe perhaps what might look like a medical emergency or some sort of other interaction. And really there's just a different way of approaching it. So I give a lot of credit to our police department and public safety in general to really work with organizations and people versus trying to enforce something that may not fit. So there's more work to be done. I do have, a call-in with the county administrator, Scott Urbish, who had contacted me once this came out and really wants to kind of be on the same page, but also work together on possible solutions here. And it's something to talk about on the state level as well, because there are various things here that need to be addressed versus just a single, perhaps, shelter, but really talking about other services that perhaps our residents and community needs. So stay tuned on some of that. And I do thank Chelsea for, reaching out to us immediately. I had a phone call from her pretty much immediately before I could even read the news, and really wanting to find some ways to work together. Now, as of Lake Street, this has become a popular topic recently because obviously South Beach is becoming very popular as well. So we have been talking with some people that had questions about whether there is parking allowed, whether there's not parking allowed, and it is a smaller, I guess, or narrower street. We have a lot of different types of traffic down there, bikers on the and people using the multi-use path. We have people in the street, we have walkers, we have neighborhood, a lot of things that we really need to take careful consideration for. And so this topic actually has been passed along to the police department and to the Traffic Parking Advisory Committee to look at. The TPAC's next meeting is actually, I believe, July 16th at 5 p.m. at City Hall, and there's a lower level, room 103. So please feel free to join or share some of your comments, but there are things to consider. And signage works only so well, but we also have the balance of our natural environment to keep in mind, but obviously safety is first. So I do say with great confidence that any changes that do occur, we would most likely be trying to reach out to those residents in that area that would be impacted, just because this has been something rather, I don't want to say contentious, but rather people have been vocal one end or the other on this. So I also, as Commissioner Schlegel had mentioned, I would also recommend inquiring with the Board of Light and Power about potential opportunities to allow for additional parking on the current site that has some limited parking. There might be opportunity there, and yes, we do work with the Board of Light and Power, and I do speak with Tom Carpenter quite frequently, but that also needs to come from some other sources as well that do want this or have concerns. And they are still determining future use on the site that used to be the old Shivers plant, but for now, if there are opportunities there, it's something that does need to come from the community as well. So I will provide an update as soon as I have one. I do have a meeting scheduled with Tom for this month, and I can get back to you on that. Board of Light and Power's next meeting is July 23rd, I believe. And but you can also reach out to the staff and to the board members as well at any time. I believe that's all. Thank you.
As mayor, I'm going to give myself a second comment period. I don't know how, when I listed all the 4th of July events, I forgot the time capsule opening and the 175th birthday of our city. And a big thank you to the Parks and Rec and the Public Works for discovering where that time capsule is and for lifting it out and bringing it to the History Center, and to John Swenson in particular for a really nice ceremony that we had. So I'm sorry that I forgot that. And with that, oh, wait, we want more. Okay, so I'm going to give a special privilege to Commissioner Schlegel.
It goes right along with what you're saying.
Okay, go ahead.
And that is that there was overages ever since that playground down at the park that's being replaced. And they are short a good chunk of change right now. I think it's 20-some thousand or at least, but I know that they're short a lot, quite a bit. And if anybody out there is sitting on a wad of cash, they could really use some help on making that great piece of property down there finished up. Thank you.
Well, we certainly have stepped out of our norm. Any other commissioners have any second thoughts? Okay. With that, I'm going to conclude our meeting at 7:09 PM.